watching NotesIn9.
Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leedy. Episode 183, Thinking Different in XPages. We're getting a little weird on this one. Okay, this really isn't going to be a demo today. I mean, yes and no. This whole show is because I did not want to type out a blog post response. That's all it is I actually did type some of it out, and I thought, oh, this is gonna be too long. There's gonna be too many typos. And when you've done as many video shows as I have, you think, oh, why can't I just make a video to respond to the blog post? So that's all this show is. So what am I responding to? A blog post by David Navarre. And I really think I do have his name right. And his blog is lostnxpages.com. He's on Twitter at lostnxpages, and he wrote this really interesting to me post, and I love the title. Writing and speaking about your code might actually make it better. So I'm going to kind of introduce him in the demo because I've already done that part, so I'm not going to say too much more here. So instead of my normal demo, we're going to leave our reply. Okay, in case you are unaware, this is planetlotus.org, which is an aggregator site for a lot of the IBM technologies, especially XPages and Domino administration stuff, and other things too or so. But I don't go here as much as I used to, but I do like to check it out often because there is great stuff that comes on here. There's 268 bloggers, give or take, and there's just a lot of XPages material or so. I wanted to highlight this post here by David Navarre. I hope I have his name right. Now, David, if you don't know him, he's a great guy. I've met him many times at MWLug. He does the video recording of a lot of the sessions. So if you've ever seen an MWLug session on YouTube or wherever they post them, you have him to thank for it. And he wrote this post that I quite personally found fascinating. Writing and speaking about your code might actually make it better. And I 100% agree with that title and that statement. And I think that's really important for you as a developer to really understand that. So I get a lot of questions, or I get a lot of emails and stuff, and I say you should post this or come on NotesIn9 and do this. And a lot of times it's like, oh, I'm not an expert, or it's not that good yet or so. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Post it. Who cares or so. If you post and talk about it, it's only going to get better. There is no negative to doing this. I mean, quite honestly, there's several things that it brings to the table. First is it's self-documenting. So once you blog it or post it somewhere, then you can refer to it, your friends can refer to it, your coworkers can refer to it. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a NotesIn9 from Google, or Google sent me to NotesIn9 that not a contributor did. I kind of did, and I forgot all about it. So that's helped me because I'm like, oh, now I can figure out what I did there and remember. It helps people learn just by posting ideas like this. And we're going to look at this. We're going to look at this code, and quite honestly, I'm not a big fan of the code. But that doesn't matter because I'm just me. I'm just some bonehead on the internet. But you're posting ideas that someone could take positive from, and maybe they think of things that they could do things differently with, etc. So again, it's just a good thing. The other thing is I have used other people's posts. David, I'm sure, has read other people's posts by posting back himself and sharing what he knows, no matter what level he's at or what level I'm at. If you've seen NotesIn9, you know my level is relatively low for the most part. But just by trying to share back, other people will see your stuff. So it's like you're thanking the bloggers whose material you've read yourself. It's a self-fulfilling little thing. So if someone reads, you read it, now you give back, and then it keeps going. It keeps propagating knowledge and collaboration. That's a good thing. And third, as kind of like what we're going to talk about in this show, is maybe there's a better way. Now, I'm not saying I have a better way. I have a different way I'm going to talk about. But maybe there's a better way, or maybe there's a different way. And if there is, someone's going to tell you about it. So I've posted stuff on NotesIn9, and I've gotten emails going, "Oh, Dave, yeah, you're wrong." And I'm like, "Okay, well, explain to me how," and that's been great. So Don't be afraid to put code out there. Don't be afraid to join the conversation. Okay, so let's look at this code here that he talks about. And the gist of it comes down to, I believe, that he doesn't want duplicates. So he's got a document with several multi-value fields. You might have the name in several different fields. So his pure goal, as best as I can understand it for what I read into it, is how do I, do different things to remove duplicates, okay? This section here, and I should have said his website is Lost in XPages. He has a lot of great posts on here. One of them, not in this virtual machine, one of them I have bookmarked. And God, I forget what, I'd have to go to my other machine to see what it is or so. I refer to all the time on full text searching and stuff like that. Let's see if we can bring it up here. This one here, I believe it is. There's just this hints, because I've never done a lot with full text searching. So I come here all the time. If I'm doing full text searching, I'm going to this blog and I'm going to read this. And some of this comes from the documentation, but he's got some good information here on his own or so. So again, this is a great blog, and even though I'm going to attempt to be constructively having some different ideas here, I mean no disrespect, because as long as the code works, that's all that really matters when all is said and done. Okay, but anyway, so he's got two labels here. Here's a label, and then here's a label. Okay, let's take this guy here, and we're gonna move it into Word. And can we make the font a little bigger? Okay, so this is label code. Okay, and what he's doing here is he's using a lot of these at functions in the code. At unique, he's got a couple calls to the get document, okay, and he's getting his solution, or that's what he started with, and then the solution is down here. I did say I'm sure that this is gonna be kind of a rambly show. Okay, so this becomes his solution. Okay, so he ends up using some vectors, and he's basically taking, a vector here, and kind of removing all from one that's not in the other, something like that. I'm not sure. I've not done a ton with vectors. So let's talk about a couple things first. Now, I will humbly suggest that using at functions when you don't have to, or when there's a JavaScript or Java equivalent, is bad for you. Now, there's no real equivalent to at name, so you got to use that. But the implode business and is not member business or so, if you go to Stack Overflow, I bet you could find a function relatively quickly that would solve some of these, that would replace some of these functions. And the reason why I strongly am against at functions in XPages is because they don't help you. They don't help. It's a crutch. It stagnates your learning, because you're not learning as much JavaScript anymore. You're learning this kind of Frankenstein JavaScript, which allows you to do all these things. What is this? This isn't really JavaScript. We're mixing Java. We're mixing at functions. Up here, he's got a JavaScript array and stuff like that. So it's just all over the board. So I would strongly recommend you try to minimize your use of at functions wherever possible, because everything you learn without them is skills that you can take with you to, more core JavaScript or client JavaScript, or even another technology or so. And again, with the resources in Google and Stack Overflow, it's not hard to find functions to replace a lot of them. The other thing I want to talk about is this vector. A vector is a Java object that's a collection. It's kind of like a list type object or so. You put stuff in there, and you can do things like remove all, and there's other methods and stuff there. Vector is not commonly used anymore. It's been replaced by lists and sets, and maybe even to some extent hash maps, though that's more of a key value thing or so. But the reason why you use vector a lot in XPages programming is because of this. Actually, really the whole get document thing. The core Domino API, it's the Java version, is very old and has not been well maintained by IBM. It's not been kept up to date and fresh. So at the time they wrote this, vector was really all you had, I guess, and you didn't have lists and sets and stuff like that. Now we do. So the problem is, since the API, the Lotus Domino API, doesn't know about lists and sets, you got to use these vectors more often than any normal Java person would ever do. Okay, unless you start to use the OpenNTF Domino API, which I've talked about recently, we'll be talking about again. So one of the core reasons for that existence is so you can do this get item value and turn it into a set or a list or something more modern. Okay, and one of the nice things about that is you get to make much better loops. So rather than doing while loops, which you could easily go make an infinite loop, you can just do nice like for next loops if you're using the OpenNTF Domino API. All right, but I'm not here to sell you on that right now, because that wouldn't help us inside server-side JavaScript, which is what this is. So again, getting back to the core problem of how do you kind of eliminate duplicates and stuff like that. So I want to talk about first, and let's get rid of this stuff up above. So there is this thing called a set. So Java util set, and the way you might create that inside server-side JavaScript is with this line: var mySet Java util set equals new Java util. Now you have to give it something less generic, hash set, and what data type is going to be in there, string, and you need these things then to create the actual object. So now you have this object mySet, which you could put, once you fill it, you could put it in scope variables. You can do anything you want with it. Also, just in case you do not know, in server-side JavaScript, this is optional, and this is really meaningless. It's only for the editor to help you with type ahead and stuff like that. It does not actually set the type of the variable or anything like that. So just be aware of that. At least that's my understanding of it. Okay, so next we might then have, ideally, we might have this line. So mySet equals procure doc, get document, get item value, multi-value field. Okay, now if you're using the OpenNTF API thing, that should work fine. This way, it probably won't work because it wants to send this as a vector, and that's probably not going to work. What might work though, and I'm kind of ad-libbing this a little bit, is if we did var mySet equals new. Oh, I guess I could just copy and paste it. Well, that would have been a much better screencaster if I would have planned anything like this ahead. String. So we had this. So what might work is if you did this. So the set might absorb that vector fairly nicely, and now you have it in a set. Okay, I'm not sure. I didn't actually run through this in any code and stuff like that. We're just live talking here. So, well, what good is a set? Well, a set does not allow duplicates. End of discussion. It's not going to happen. It will never happen. It is against the law of the set to allow duplicates. Okay, so what that means is you could do something like this if you chose to. Var, get your variable here from your document. And then we create this, and then just a simple loop for approver, add this to the set. You will end up with no duplicates in that set. End of story. And I already showed you how you can, now, I showed you how you can kind of like do this thing here, but when you want to get it back into the document, and again, I haven't done this in a while, you may need to convert it back to a vector. So here's creating a vector, new vector string, and then mySet. So it's basically the reverse of what I just threw in up here. Okay, so you might need to save that vector back to the for the replace item value into the document. I'm not sure because I haven't used it. You would not need to use a vector with the Domino API, the OpenNTF API. So that's why that's such a great thing. Okay, so that being said, let's come back here a little bit. So hopefully that kind of throws out a new idea on maybe dealing with duplicates and stuff like that using this set list. And what does Java have? It has all these collections, right? And the two most common are list and set. And list, you have this array list, which is kind of the most common iteration. And then here you have hash set. right? And then you could also have, maps, and you have hash maps, so map is another kind of collection, I think. I'm not sure. So you have the hash map, and then you have this thing called tree map, and it's a key value. The map is all key value stuff, right? So the value could be anything. Could be an object. Could be whatever. But there's also a tree set up here. So not only could the tree set means sort. So the tree stuff will sort by the key. Now this is a single value thing, so there's no key. So if we use this set code that I just deleted, but used it, define it as a tree set rather than a hash set. Let's bring that back. Then not only would he eliminate duplicates, they'd be sorted alphabetically. And you can kind of control that sorting and stuff too if you need to. So again, that's just another advantage of kind of getting into the Java guts of it underneath it. Okay, so let's look at this label. I have a small problem with this label, and I killed the end label tag, it looks like. So let me just put one back here. So I have a small problem with this label because if we go back to the original code, he's got two of these labels, okay? And I would actually throw out that I'd probably use like a computed text or computed field controller, whatever that's called, rather than a label, but that might just be me. Okay, so now if I have two of these things, okay, that's a lot of lines. Maybe there's more. This is a lot of stuff on your X page. Okay, and let's go back to the 2. And if he continues on with this, he's got 4 get document calls going on here. Remember, the JSF lifecycle, that call might hit, maybe up to 8 times, give or take. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it. So get document is a rather expensive call. And now you're doing it multiple times, throughout your X page. That's probably a bad habit to get into, and maybe something you want to try to avoid. Now it's a little hard to avoid it depending on where this procure doc comes from and what that is in its application. This is not global, a globally bound document. But what I do here is this is the whole reason why I've been talking about Java and page controllers on NotesIn9 for so long, is to get this logic off the X page itself and move it elsewhere, and to keep this clean, right? So in theory, let's do it this way. I'd much rather see it look something like this. And again, I don't live in the source, so forgive me if this is not syntactically correct, Jesse, when you start looking at this. And I think there's some quotes here. Controller dot prover list. Okay. To me, that's all you need. Give a little separation or so. And then if you have 2 or more of these things, okay, that's no big deal. It's nice and clean. Move this logic out to Java classes, and then in that Java class, which is this controller thing, you only need to basically get the document once. Then you only make that one call. It holds on to it. It does its processing, and it feeds it to the X page, rather than the X page, doing that get document multiple times. This is kind of like back in the Notes client days when we'd put like all these @db lookups into fields, and then it got slow, and we're like, oh, what happened to our application? So that's the same kind of construct that we're going in. So I'm going to jump now back to the recent show I did, which is NotesIn9 182, X pages from Java from start to finish, and let's look at how that looks. So here's the X page that I used here. Okay, and if you notice, did I get that right? Value equals, yeah, I think I even got that right. Yay, Dave. Okay, so if you notice that, that's all that's really on that page. Okay, there's a couple exceptions, but not much. So the page is relatively clean of logic. And how does that work? Is we have this Java class. This is what's called, this is my controller here. So this class here can hold, information, and then you can make whatever methods you want, to bring it back. So, for instance, he might have, it would, have, if this is controller approval list, in the controller, it might have public list string get approver list, right? And then inside here, it would do whatever. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at here in Designer. So in my world here, I've got public boolean is read only, from this. Okay, my nose client took a little breather there, and I have asthma too, so I know what that's like. So I kind of lost my train of thought there. But what we have here is we have this light XPages form, and it's using this controller class. And what this controller class is, it's holding these objects. So here's this project object. I've got another one here too, task object. So in Dave's world, how would that kind of apply if he wanted to kind of pursue this? This is the thing. So this procured doc, ideally in an ideal world, he could turn that into a Java object. And the advantages to that is, well, then you can make it serializable, and then you could, hold on to it in your controller object, and you can add additional functionality to it. So whenever you want to turn a document basically into a Java object to replace that document, it is really not that hard, especially once you do it a couple times. So this is a notes document that, oops, that's the next page. This is a notes, well, this is actually a notes form, technically, but it represents a document with these fields underneath it, and there could be more fields and stuff than it's even showing on the form. That's kind of irrelevant. So we create an object in here, and I showed you this in 182 a little more. Now again, I'm using this. You would use lotus.domino if you can't use the Domino API. You put your fields up here for the most part. And I'd have a loader method. So this load is responsible for getting the document from disk, and then it passes the document into this load values, which populates these fields, and that's it. Now my document is basically converted. The notes document is converted into this Java object, which we get some advantages to it. And then for saving, it's the reverse. So here's a save method, which is only responsible for getting the document. And then it calls save values, which does all the replace item values. So now in this case, Dave, might need to, convert some things to vectors and stuff like that to get it back out to the document. That is not an insurmountable task, really. And then you have these setters and getters and stuff like that. Now Dave might have, this getter, this get approver list. So this might not even be a field on there or on the document. It might be something that just, inspects the fields, or actually, it would be more like this. Where did it go? It might be more something like this, where you create your set, from your field and stuff like that. Now, of course, this is server-side JavaScript, not Java. But again, the point is that you're creating your own methods. And when you create your own methods, then you can feed them back into your XPage, and then you get a nice clean XPage, because all your logic is moving off this XML XPage representation and into either the controller or I guess this is called the model object. So this is the logic for your web page. So since I'm in a controller here, I would never make a view scope variable. I would add methods in here, and bam, there it is. That's how I reference it. Here, I would never have something in here that knew about the web page. This is just my data object, and I work with that. Okay, so that's basically it. I know this was a kind of a rambling demo, but hopefully that it is helpful to somebody. And that's the reply to his post. I hope I didn't say anything stupid. I know it's kind of rambly. I hope I didn't offend anybody. If I did, let me know. Here's my information, and I thank you for your time.